well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very happy to be here to speak to you about data. Thank you, Vish and Scott. That was a delightful presentation, very insightful, educational, and inspirational. I'm sure you all agree. While Scott and Vish actually spoke to you about the art and science of data, what I'll be speaking to you about today is how Canada Post can help you and your customers put it into practice, whether it's using our own data or your customers' data. I've actually presented this presentation a few times across the country along customer roadshows, and I'm very happy to be here today to share it with our partners and our agencies. Hopefully through this presentation you'll see how Canada Post is starting to transform how we approach data, how we speak about data, and how we're shifting to reposition our Smart Mail offering as clearly anchored in data. Scott and Vish talked about data being, the grains of sand on a beach and the footprints. Well, for us, data is very much the brain of our product. And so, we're continually looking to invest more in data and grow our data offering because we truly believe that by doing so, we can help you and your customers be more successful. Okay, let me just get this right here. All right, well, I'll just keep going here. So Scott and Vish also spoke about measuring and understanding a customer's level of maturity when it comes to data. We know that most of our customers are at different stages of the journey, and that's actually completely natural. In fact, we know that 86% of marketers know that data is critical to their success, but actually less than half know how to go about it. And of course, the sheer magnitude of the data is part of the issue. We've just learned that 90% of the data in the world today has been created in the last 2 years alone. And as the world steadily becomes more connected, that's only set to grow in the coming years. It's not working, Denise. Thank you very much. Okay, I'll keep going here. So the digital world is not only generating more and more data, it has also fundamentally transformed how we live. But however, with all the digital connectivity, one thing remains the same. We all live, work, play, shop, and experience in the physical world. And the home remains the key place where most of the purchase decisions are made. And that home has an address. And we believe that the address is an incredibly powerful way for marketers to connect and engage with both existing and new customers. And so today, I'm going to show you how we can work with you to engage with your customers along every step of the purchase funnel by tapping into address intelligence. All right, we got it working. Tapping into address intelligence can be on a one-on-one level, but it can also be by reaching the postal code level, which contains approximately 20 households per postal codes. And not to forget the neighborhoods. For those of you that are familiar with neighborhood mail, you know that you can reach a neighborhood by targeting either one or a combination of multiple delivery routes. And each delivery route contains about 700 addresses approximately. So how do you go about this? Well, let's start big. Let's start really big. Canada Post has the largest geolocation address database in Canada. We're really good at knowing where people live because we deliver to them every day, and have been for over a century. Whether it's a parcel that you're waiting for, a favorite pair of shoes that you bought online, a new credit card, a catalog, or a special offer from your favorite retailer, we deliver you to your address every day. And so with access to 16 million households in Canada, that includes 15 million residential addresses, which provides exclusive access to apartments and condos, and 1 million business address, our reach is really unmatched. So if a customer wants to reach consumers with a household income of over $100,000 that is highly educated, like to shop online, and maybe like to garden, we can help them do that. Our database contains billions of data points that together can help our customers and your customers find who is most likely to buy and be influenced by any type of offer. Of course, there are other suppliers in the list market and the data market, but we got into the data business a few years ago because we were hearing from customers that there's a lack of quality in the list market and that there's actually issues as it related to reach. And that's because most of the lists out there are compiled from the phone book directories. Now, show of hands, who here still has a home phone at home? A few. But you can see that not everybody here actually raised their hands, right? Probably around 50% or less. So I'm sure we can all agree it's a declining asset. So we can't rely on that to generate lists that help us get into the home of our customers. And so as leaders in geolocation marketing solution, for us ensuring the accuracy and the completeness of our address data is critical to our customer success, but also it's critical to our channel's effectiveness. And so we have built our foundational intelligence based in a way that ensures that we have the confidence and the accuracy of our address data with daily processes that make sure that our addresses are updated. I was speaking about how our letter carriers walk their routes every day and get into, deliver mail to every household. Well, as they do that, they're mandated to capture changes on their routes. If an address gets added, if somebody moves out and the address becomes unoccupied, they're mandated to capture that. And of course, all that data makes its way into the database to make sure that when we work with our customers to give them a list of addresses, it's as accurate and as up-to-date as possible. We're also really good at capturing apartment suite numbers, which is not the case for most lists out there. And our lists are focused on mailing addresses, not just physical addresses. And there's always a difference between the two in many cases. So our address asset starts at the address and at the postal code. That's the base of it. But we add our proprietary operational data to it. And that includes e-commerce behavior, which I'll talk to you a little bit about later in the presentation, as well as exclusive access to movers. And on the business side of things, business attributes like names, contact information, and also access to small home offices, so businesses that operate from a home address. And then we layer on top of this data intelligence from our strategic partnerships. And that includes demographic, behavioral, interest, lifestyle, life stage attributes. And when you combine all of those together, it enables our customers to reach the right household with the right offer, with the right message. And I was telling you at the beginning that we are continuing to invest in data at Canada Post. Well, this is the key areas that we're investing in at the moment. We are continually working to build new relationships, new partnerships with third-party data providers out there to continue to add more layers of intelligence to our database. In fact, we're working as we speak with geolocation data providers, as well as providers that capture industry-specific data. So for example, to help us help nonprofits achieve and find new donors, as well as home improvement retailers find more new movers. And we're actually working on a new source for reaching real estate listings that'll be available in the next couple of weeks, which is really exciting. Now let's take a look at what address intelligence can look like. Just from the address, we know so many things. The household income, the dwelling type, visible minority, education, marital status, settlement type, online shopping, and the list goes on, with hundreds of data points assigned to each address. Now you may be thinking, this may sound a little bit creepy from Canada Post. I see it in some of your faces. How can you not? This is a confusing time in the world of data privacy and security, with Millions of accounts being hacked, an increasing number of connected devices following your every move and knowing where you're going, and of course, the rapidly changing regulation with GDPR, just being launched last year in the EU. So, to better understand Canadian consumer perspective, the CMA recently participated in a global study. Canadian-specific results show that there is some interesting interplay between consumers' awareness of data issues and their understanding of how data is used by companies. The study found that 77% of Canadians have some concerns about their online privacy. But at the same time, the research shows that consumer comfort is improving and that there is fertile ground for healthy exchange of data in Canada. For instance, consumers agree that 57% of consumers agree that disclosing personal information is increasingly part of modern life. And 35% view the exchange of personal information as essential for the smooth running of modern society. And when you look at just millennials, that number increases to almost half. So it's clear that consumers recognize that personalization is key and that this takes data. And so it really becomes about value exchange and transparency. Canada Post takes consumer privacy very seriously. We are a trusted intermediary between businesses and consumers, and we take a proactive, PIPEDA-first approach in how we approach consumer data. And being a Crown corporation, we're also subject to the Privacy Act. So when we make data decisions, we actually look at both. We believe in trust, transparency, control, and respect. And when I speak about address intelligence, it's important to note that unless we have consent, we anonymize our data up to the postal code. And we make sure that we never profile a postal code if there's less than 15 households in that postal code. And we believe that Canadians deserve respect and that aggregation and anonymization is the perfect balance to achieve what we call respectful intelligence. Now let's circle back to the address, because the power of the address isn't just ours, it's your customers too. Past and present customer address data, your customers have it, and they likely have consent to use it, whether it's to communicate directly with their customers, or maybe even to profile their best customers and find lookalike prospects, or maybe lookalike geographies. At the end of the day, your customer's house list is the best list. House lists are known to pull double the response rate of even the best performing lists out there, because they're made up of customers that signed up to receive information from you. They are looking forward to receive offers from that retailer and have built a relationship. Now let's look at the response rate by media. You can see here that the highest response rate comes from direct mail. And as I was just saying, the house list pulls twice as higher as a rented list. But what's also interesting is that when you compare the house list from direct mail at 5.3%, and you compare it to the response rates for email house lists at 0.9%, and you can see that the direct mail house list outperforms email by up to 9 times. So how do you extract the best value from an existing customer? Well, now I'll walk you through a few tips. Number 1, establish a foundation of customer insights and segmentation. Profile your customers and understand who they are and where they're coming from. For example, a while ago we were working with a retailer who wanted to reach existing customers. And they actually thought that their customers resided in close proximity to their store in a very small radius. When we were working with them, we encouraged them to profile not only all their customers, but to really only look at their best customers. And when we did so, we learned that their best customers actually did not reside in that close radius that they thought of originally. They actually resided a little bit further out from their store location. And what's even more interesting is that when we profiled those customers against our e-commerce insights, there's actually a match there. So we're able to inform them that their best customers were actually heavy e-commerce shoppers overall. And so I bring forward this example because it clearly shows that some basic segmentation, just looking at your customer list a different way, can help debunk some homegrown customer assumptions maybe, and completely transform a marketing strategy to make it more effective. This actually helps you with number 2, which is focus your strategy on your best customers. Don't treat every customer alike. You can invest more in customers that are more profitable with more frequent communications and different offers. Actually, companies that have multi-tier loyalty programs like Sephora do this very well. Third point is to communicate across the entire customer life cycle. And here Scott and Vish talked about relationship moments. Loyalty is not only a one-time thing, it's an ongoing conversation that starts perhaps with a post-purchase thank you or onboarding communication, all the way through to cross-sell and upsell, and maybe sending a birthday card on your customer's birthday. Who here has received a personalized card from a retailer in the past few months? Maybe for your birthday or after a purchase? Good, a few hands are being raised, that's good. Sometimes there's not many. And here, sharing a personal story, a while ago I was shopping for a mini fridge for my basement and found one at a new retailer that have no brand affinity for it, never really bought from them. And so went to the store, bought the mini fridge, came back home, and a few days later I get a personalized thank you card for the sales rep that sold me the fridge. It really transformed my brand experience with that retailer. And guess what? They sent me another personalized piece of mail a few weeks after, and what do you know? I was looking for a new coffee table set, and I went to the store and bought it. And now I'm more apt to respond to their communication, and they've really started to develop that relationship with me. Another quick example on the birthday side of things, I have a friend who's a little hard-headed, not the one to really be likely to respond to marketing communications. And just recently, he signed up a new bank account with a new company. And for his birthday, that company sent him, I think it was a $10 gift card from Tim Hortons. Well, he has told me twice about it without really knowing that he was repeating himself. But imagine the word of mouth that generates, because sending a personalized piece of mail like that really cuts through clutter, and we don't get a lot of them. So it makes people talk, and really elevates your brand to the whole new level. Point number 4 is be ready to continually test, measure, and tweak. When I was presenting this presentation to customers across the country, I was asking them to raise their hands if they always used a test and a control groups in their campaigns. And I was stunned to see the level of hands that was raised in the rooms. There's almost no one raising their hands. And it's very surprising because to me, coming from a digital background and having run Google ad campaigns, testing is really part of how you create them. It's just part of the process. It's part of how you think about it. Well, I'm not seeing the same discipline on the direct marketing side of things, and it's really a lost opportunity. You can't really measure the true lift of a campaign if you don't have a control group in place. And how do you continually improve your creative and your offer if on top of the control group, you don't test 2 versions out there in the market? Maybe you start with 50-50. 50% of your group gets a certain offer, the other 50 gets another, and as you learn and evolve, you maybe move to 80-20, where you have a winner and a challenger approach, and constantly try to get your response to a new level by testing. Number 5, there is power in the address. Make sure to ask for it. Even the postal code. I can't tell you how many times, too much here, I can't tell you how many times I go to a store and they ask me for my email address. What a wasted opportunity. With an email, you can maybe send one email, one and done. I may open it, I may not, may forget about it really soon thereafter. If you ask for a postal code or an address at the point of purchase, you can not only issue a communication to that customer, but you can really understand more about your customer base. Where are they coming from? What do they look like? What are their top characteristics? And use that to inform your marketing strategy over time. And these tips actually not only work for loyalty, but they can actually work with acquisition too. Profiling your best customers to find prospects, or identify postal codes that are performing best to help you find more of those customers. Now we'll move on to an example of an acquisition campaign. We'll go through how address intelligence can be put into action across the entire purchase funnel, starting with acquisition. So who here is familiar with Wayfair? Great, lots of hands being raised. They've obviously done a really good job in the past few years raising their awareness, because in 2016, they were just entering the Canadian market and people really didn't know about them. They had very little awareness in Canada. And they needed a strategy to penetrate the market and acquire new customers, getting their message in the right hands. And being an e-commerce only retailer, they knew that everyone was not their customer. Everyone was not ready to start buying furniture online. Which is why Canada Post was the perfect partner at the time to help Wayfair find the best prospects. We deliver a large majority of e-commerce shipments in Canada, which provides us with amazing insights on where e-shoppers live. This map shows a view of e-commerce shoppers, growth by volume. So you may not be surprised to see that there is continued growth in e-commerce in Canada, and that the growth is pretty sustained across multiple provinces, some more than others, but really growth is happening everywhere. So it's certainly no surprise that online shopping in Canada is booming. 80% of Canadians have shopped online in the past year. And what's especially interesting is when we take a look at the makeup of that 80%, who is shopping online and what they're doing. So here you'll see that there's 6% one-time shoppers, 36% occasional shoppers that have bought 2 to 6 times, 24% frequent shoppers, 16% power shoppers, 9% hyper shoppers, and another 9% that we call hyper elite. Now, what's interesting about this slide is that last year, there's about double, if not more, the number of one-time shoppers, which means that customers are starting to shop once, but then they don't stop there. Their maturity level in e-commerce shopping and behavior is evolving, and they're adopting that as a normal behavior now. And the other thing I want to point out from this slide is that the hyper-elite category also did not exist a year ago, which means that there's a whole new category of shoppers that are just shopping intensely online. As you can see, 41 purchases plus per year. So to help our customers tap into this insight, we have created what we call the e-commerce index. And so our e-commerce shopper index is created through methodology that ensures that we can help connect our customers and your customers with the top e-commerce shopping geographies. So what we do to do this is we take data from our top 3,000 shoppers and score each postal code with consideration for 3 things. The first one is volume, so the number of parcels in a given postal code. Second one is penetration, number of active households in a postal code that actually are receiving parcels, to avoid, of course, the one household anomaly within a postal code. And thirdly, the frequency. So how often do we see parcels delivered to each addresses within the postal code? And based on each of these elements, we create a score for each postal code, we rank them, and create deciles. And so when our customers ask us to reach the highest e-commerce shoppers in Canada, we generally use the top 2 deciles and help them target those that are more likely to respond to a drive-to-web online offer. And not only do we have a general shopper index, but we also have created shopper categories around health and beauty, fashion, home and garden, toys, books and games, technology, and mass merchants. It's important to note that when we create these categories, no one retailer can represent more than 25% of the shipments to ensure we protect every customer's retail insights. Now, being in Toronto today, I thought I'd share a little bit of insight on what does a top e-commerce shopper look like in Toronto. Well, there are most likely to be between 20 and 49, common law with no kids, probably own their home and live in a high-rise of fairly recent build in a metro urban area. Highly educated, high household income of a business management type profession. So let's go back to Wayfair. So when Wayfair approached us to test this address intelligence, it was really perfect timing because at the time we were looking to test our own e-commerce data and also see if there was any new applications for this data, a new way to take to market this data to help our customers reach online shoppers. And so we worked together with Wayfair to take this insights, help them reach their new market in Canada, and created a pilot. And here's what it looked like. So we created a test that contained 200 target households and broke it down into 5 different cells. The first group was made up of the existing e-commerce index that I was just talking about. So 40,000 people were identified in this group. The second group was the same index with a seasonal variation. So what we did is we gave more weight to purchases being made in the holiday season and created this second group. In the third group, we took again our e-commerce index, but suppressed all the non-shoppers to make sure we got the message only to those households that had made an online purchase. The fourth group was made up of a lookalike profile. So this is where we took Wayfair's customer data and profiled their customers to draw out the top characteristics from this group. And using the top characteristics, we created an audience that was made up of those attributes. And the last group was targeting shoppers with parcel lockers. Is everybody here familiar with parcel lockers and what those are? Show of hand, yeah, no. So parcel lockers are big boxes that we put in apartment lobbies across the country, apartments and condos, and it allows our customers to get a better delivery experience because they don't have to go to the post office to pick up their parcels. They can, similar to what you would experience in a community mailbox, get the key, open the locker, get your parcel right there and there. So we have those installed in many buildings across the country. And of course, we've seen some increase in e-commerce volumes coming from those apartments. And we can actually help use these apartments as an audience for customers to reach. And so we created these 5 groups with Wayfair. And Wayfair, as part of this test, leveraged the mini catalog. Which is a mini but mighty way to personalize content, get a lot of products out there, and be able to feature multiple articles. They also leveraged our new at the time postal code targeting solution, which allowed them to laser in on just the best postal codes, as we've identified in the previous slide. And so it's important to note that in this test, Wayfair preferred to reach all of their customers within the identified geographies. But note that with postal code targeting, we usually recommend suppressing your existing customers from the list so that you don't burden your existing customers with a very appealing acquisition offer that may just be available for new customers, for example. And at the same time, it also helps protect your return on investment so that you can have a really targeted campaign for just prospects that are most likely to respond. And so now let's move on to results. Can anybody guess which group performed best? Just yell it out. No? Rick, you can't answer because you know it. Well, the best performing group was surprisingly the parcel lockers customer audience, which outperformed industry average response rates by 207%. For Wayfair, it was great because it really gave them some insight into a new potential segment for them, which is millennials living in apartments and condos in metro urban areas with a high income. It was really interesting insight for them to use moving forward. But when you look at all the other groups as well, you can see that there was great performance across the board. So, going from bottom up, the audience we suppressed non-shoppers outperformed industry average by 108%. And the existing e-commerce index, as is, outperformed by 66%. And the lookalike by 7%. So great performance, and Wayfair is actually continuing to use postal code targeting as part of their mix and continuing to experiment with different targeting attributes and ways to apply the state intelligence. I know you have a question. Do you want to maybe hold till the end? I'll come back to you. That's okay. So now let's move on to retention. So I'll give you an example here. And some of you may actually be surprised to see the leader in digital advertising use offline to get results. But this actually happens more often than you think. Actually, a friend of mine just sent me a picture on the weekend of a piece of mail that she's received for Google offering her credits for her Google Ads account. She was like, wow, yeah, they still do that. So Google Partners, in this case, is the subject of the case study. And for those who are not familiar with the Google Partners program, it's a program for agencies and digital professionals who help advertisers make the most of Google AdWords. So members of the program get access to a range of benefits, including training events, insights, offers, and badge benefits. And so their problem was that many partners had signed up to the program, but had not completed all the steps necessary to make advantage of their membership. So what did Google do, may you ask? Well, they segmented their data to target over 1,000 high-value Google partners in Australia and New Zealand. And they created a really cool campaign that was essentially a helicopter shipped to their customers in a box. And the whole concept was around the fact that the helicopter was really fun to fly, but really difficult. They made it really challenging on purpose in order to reinforce their key message, which was the more you practice, the better you get. And for them, that was a clear analogy to the Google Partners program. And so let's see how it did. Great results. So 26% increase in completed company profiles, 42% increase in completed individual profiles, and 18% increase in new companies into the program. Maybe surprised to hear that, but because the program was so successful with their customers and it went viral, and so that's where new companies also heard about Google Partners and decided to sign up. So Google really nailed it. And part of why this campaign was really successful was because if you send an email, the email comes and goes, but the helicopter in this case got put on a desk somewhere, on a shelf, and it really showed the power of the longevity of a direct mail campaign, because the helicopter was there as a constant reminder of the program to continue to encourage participation and engagement from the customer perspective. And as I've just mentioned, the program went viral because they sent the campaign to customers in Australia first. And of course, when New Zealanders got wind of the program via social media, they got really jealous, and there was a little bit of social media debate going on between the two countries. Now let's circle back to Wayfair, because as part of the pilot, we also tested a remarketing tactic with them, and the campaign really had great results. The target was customers with Wayfair profiles that had started online shopping, started a transaction, but had abandoned the shopping cart. And so you're probably familiar with remarketing from a digital standpoint, but have you been starting to use it with direct mail? Many people don't think of direct mail in terms of personalization or speed, but advancements in data and technology are now enabling direct mail to deliver personalization in deeper and more innovative ways. And so this remarketing pilot, we partnered with SMM experts Prime Data, leveraging their responsive print solution. And on a daily basis, abandoned cart customer data was sent to Prime Data, leveraging a customized programmable template. And the variable print technology customized over 10 data points per postcards, including the shopping category that the customer was shopping from. And postcards were mailed the next day to customers and in their hands the day after. And so 15,000 postcards were printed and sent. And you can see here the results was truly phenomenal. They had a 25% response rate and an 11% incremental lift in revenue. Now to close off, let's look at loyalty. So Frank & Oak is a unique omni-channel retailer in Canada. And when this retailer decided to open 6 new locations across the country, they were looking for a way to engage with existing and past customers. And so they leveraged geolocation data to identify which customers in their database lived within 20 kilometers of each of their retail location. And they also segmented this group further to identify 2 distinct groups. So the first one was targeting their highest value customer, and the second group was targeting their lapsed customers. Now let's take a look at the results. They had an increase of 350% in ROI from active customers, 200% ROI from inactive customers, and truly phenomenal response rates on coupons here. 45% used the coupon in store. And that closes the presentation, folks. So this is targeted address intelligence. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about what makes up Canada Post data and how you can work with your customers to leverage it. And hopefully it inspired you on some of your future campaigns. Thank you so much, and we'll take a few questions. I think, yes, I think somebody had a question over here.
It may be a silly question, but I wanted to ask, the lockers that were used, the parcel or the mini catalog that was sent to their mailbox, not to the lockers?
Correct, yes. So when you, the question was, when you target apartments and condos with parcel lockers, does the mail piece go to the parcel locker itself or to the regular mailbox? And the answer is to the regular mailbox. Not at the moment, unless it's a parcel.
I just have one comment, if I may.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of great successes, the Wayfair, the Frank & Oak, and I would be remiss not to thank those partners in the room that were engaged in that success. This success was enabled by the agencies and the partners in the room. Steve, major shout out to you with the responsive friend component of it. And it really is our success. It wasn't a Canada Post success, it's ours, and I want to thank everyone that have been engaged with regards to those examples I've given. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Rick. Yes, other question?
I just want to clarify, you were mentioning before when you read the list, because of the privacy rules in place right now, you are still aggregating those records to the postal code level. So I'm assuming if you have a high match in that area, that you're going to use that postal code, you're going to include all those records in the list, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So then, isn't there a bit of a disconnect because we're talking with the previous guys as well, you're talking about one-to-one and you're trying to find those attributes. And on the slide you have where you had the person, they own an SUV, they have all that information, you're not really leveraging that as best you could, because if you're aggregating something, like I can understand income and maybe education, although there may be a few demographics that may be similar, but in a neighborhood where someone drives an SUV, obviously not everyone is going to drive an SUV, and some of those other demographic profiles that you have for specific things. So with the privacy legislation, do you feel that's going to change as Canadians are more willing to accept that, or is that going to be a challenge ongoing? Because I do feel you have all that information, and back to the other guys, you're not leveraging that data that you have because of rules, really.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that was a long question for me to repeat, but essentially, let me try to answer it as best as I can. So essentially, yes, so first, when we do, create an audience for a customer, unless we have consent, it is rolled up to the postal code level, and that is to be compliant to privacy regulations in Canada. It has to be anonymized and aggregated to respect individuals, and so that's the basis of most of our lists. But we do have some audiences that are at the address level, like movers, for example, and that's one of the key areas that we are trying to grow and invest in, is get more individual address data to allow a marketer to really truly be one-on-one in the acquisition side of things. And so we're working hard on growing the individual one-to-one acquisition audience, but we're getting there for sure. And unfortunately, we have to comply to privacy, right? Like unfortunately, in many ways. And so when we create a list based on an audience that has been aggregated, it is based on postal codes that have a high propensity to have a certain characteristics. So what that means is that when you reach that postal code, we only give you the postal codes that are higher than average, higher than the benchmark. So, you will get postal codes that are twice as likely to have a BMW in their driveway. And of course, for segments that are very targeted, like BMWs, the benchmark is probably just lower generally by the nature of things. But for some more broader attributes, you can get quite a high propensity due to the fact that neighborhoods and people that live together kind of look similar. So you'll find that when you look at variables like household income, education, those are more concentrated, and you'll get a higher propensity when you look at the postal code level. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's just on the acquisition side of things, right? So, of course, personalized mail helps you reach individual customers. And when it is your own customer list, well, there's no such issues as aggregation and anonymization. You have the consent, and you can reach them at that level. And so, yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Sophie, have you ever done a comparison with American list strategies and the sort of aggregation that you're doing on a postal code level? When we talk with American marketers, they're thinking about a list that's an actual person, and then we try to explain to them here in Canada, best we can do is between these two street corners, and only if it's not smaller than 15 houses between those. And they start going, what am I really buying? So have you done some benchmarking so that we could explain to an American who's used to precision, oh no, it's not quite so precise, but it's like this, but it still works. Have you got anything?
Yeah, so when you compare the Canadian market to the US market, it's definitely very different in terms of privacy landscape. I think Vish and Scott referred to the fact that there's no real hard privacy legislations in Canada, or maybe that was in a sideline conversation in the US, right? And so it's very different, and the US is still getting away with individual address lists that aren't all consent-based, which is not allowed in Canada. For example, you'll see a lot of co-op databases and sharing and amalgamation of customer lists that are then commercialized, and we can't do that here. So we don't actually have any specific tools that I can give you today to help you make that comparison, but it's something we're definitely working on, because we are getting some questions from our northbound customers who are trying to understand the privacy landscape and the difference.
Yeah, it'd be nice to sort of say, okay, well, with our strategy, we can expect these kinds of results. You're over here used to being able to say that house and that house and that house have a BMW. Here we say this global area has a BMW twice as likely, and we get these kinds of results, and that would help them sway them to using that curse. Otherwise, they kind of feel like I'm not really knowing at all what I'm getting and how it is.
Yeah, we'll be working on getting some tools out to you, but definitely if there are questions or if there's any conversations we can help with, I'm happy to be part of that conversation and bring some of our privacy experts to help out as well, just to help understand the differences. Yes.
Sorry, you spoke about a new source coming up for reaching real estate listings. Is there anything you can elaborate?
Yes, so we're working with a partner that scours the internet for real estate listings in Canada. And so using these real estate listings, we create an audience, a list of households that are up for sale in Canada. And so that allows you to reach people that are likely to move in the next few weeks or months. And further to that, we also create a subsegment that contains just the households that have been sold. So when they are essentially taken down and the listing goes out, meaning that the house is sold. And that at that point, you're actually closer to the move. So it really helps marketers reach movers across the entire moving cycle in a new way, because in our current data for movers was really very close to the move, right? It was assuming that the customer had already moved. So I'm really excited because that helps broaden the time frame in which you can reach people that are likely to move and leverage the different spend cycles along the way.
So that will be, and that's the concern I have, is the recency of the data in movers was not great. So this will be more quickly available from acquisition of data to dissemination?
It's more around the point in time in the customer moving cycle, right? So it's getting to the customer when their house is for sale, which means that they have a few weeks of purchases. Maybe they're doing renovations to their old house to spruce it up before it gets sold. Versus when it's further down in the mover cycle, well, you're in a new house and you have very different needs than the customer that's just put their house for sale. So it's just allowing you to reach the movers across the full cycle.